All right, so good afternoon, everyone, once again. For today, we will go ahead and discuss the very first part of the finals module, which actually talks about an entirely new topic in Java programming, CP12A. So we will start I mean, you know, in module 5, which is the introduction to Java Swing. This is actually not your first time hearing the Java Swing kasi ginagamit na natin ang Java Swing nung grade 11 pa lang tayo, especially when you are using the J option pane. Tama? So, in this module, of course, the entire focus of our finals is for us to create a program or, a program that uses JavaX.swing or the swing components na meron tayo. And now, when we say Java Swing, we are actually talking about what we call the GUI components. So this time, gagawa na tayo ng mga code na may graphical user interface components. Okay, such as buttons, yan, text fields, and other components with which the user can interact. And apparently, Java Swing or this Java contains two sets of GUI component. Tinatawag natin na out and swing.out. Okay, pag sinabi nating out, we are talking about abstract Windows Toolkit. Gagamitin pa rin natin yan. I will actually introduce that later on. Out components are older. This is actually the old version and not as portable as Swing components and do not have a consistent appearance when used with different operating systems, unlike Java Swing. Okay? Now, this particular module na meron tayo will focus entirely on how to create your first Java program na merong graphical user interfaces. And as I have, as I have noticed from your output, one student here, hindi ko lang alam kung sa section na to, pero one student are actually using or tried using Java Swing components or GUI components doon sa program na sinabit nila during the midterms. And I have given that student, kasi hindi ko pa tinuturo eh. So, hindi ko pa siya binibigyan ng mataas na score for now. Okay, kasi wala pa. So, kung ikaw yung student na yun and you know how to use this component already, Java Swing, yan, mga Jframe, this will be your advantage. Pero if beginner ka, gaya ng iba, okay lang, mas maganda. Okay? Now, going back, yan, gamit tayo ng Java Swing dito and Swing components have names like Jframe and Jbutton. So, usually, yan, ito yung dalawang to ang pinaka-importante natin later on. And GUI components are also called as controls or widgets. And each swing component is a descendant of J component. So which in turn inherits from this class here. So we have the java.out.container class. So again, yung out kasi, ito yung old version. Pero inside the out component contains the container class. And aside from this one, you can also insert this one. Okay, itong javax or javax.swing na ginagamit natin since grade 11. Okay, doon sa program natin later on. And X in javax originally stood for extension. So, because the swing classes were an extension of the original Java language specification. So, later on mamaya, okay, dito maglalagay tayo ng dalawa. Okay, meron tayong javax swing, pero this is the main na import package na gagamitin natin. And we have out, the out component. Alright? Now, since we are talking about the components here, let's talk about that one in a bit. So the component class is a child class of what we call the object. And the container class is a child of the component class. So, tignan natin to ha. You have here the java.lang object. And below that, contains the out.component. Kung napansin nyo, yung out.component ang pinaka-parent ng javax swing na ginagamit natin. Okay? So, marami yan. Java.out.frame is the parent of javax swing. Java out.window is the parent of Java out.frame. And so on, pataas na siya. So, a window is a rectangular container. So, ito yun. Pag sinabi nating window, ito rin siya. Para nakikita natin. Yan. That can hold GUI controls. Okay? And Java programs often prefer to create frame inside or instead of a window. Now, a frame, take note, a frame is a window that has a title bar. So, makikita natin yung sample natin dito later on sa module. Yan. It has a title bar. and a border. And in Java, remember this one, a frame is a child of the window. Okay? So again, container class is a parent class. Tandaan nyo yan ha. And the window class is a child of a container. So imagine you have a container. Ito, nandito yung container niya sa pinakataas. Container. And below that is a window class. Okay? And kagaya ng sabi ko, window is a rectangular container. And pag sinabi nating window, may tinatawag tayo na frame naman. Okay. So, yun yung mga importante natin na makita na terminologies later on. And because gagamitin kasi natin yan eh. Lahat sila. Okay? And let's talk about the Jframe class. So, and you usually create a Jframe so that you can place other objects within it. Okay? And i-skip na natin to. Punta tayo dito ngayon sa mga methods or constructors na ginagamit in order for us to, build or create a Jframe. So we have here constructor Jframe, and inside that is a title together with the graphic configuration and the string title and graphic configuration GC. So mamaya magagamit natin lahat to. Well, basically, ang ginagawa nito is we are just simply trying to instantiate an object which is a JFrame. So that means we are trying to create a Java program that will now, okay, create a JFrame. So in order for us to do that, yan, meron tayong tinatawag na itong constructor na to, JFrame. The first frame is actually a user-defined name. So pwedeng-pwedeng yung baguhin to. Equals new JFrame. Hello. So, kung natatandaan nyo yung ginagawa natin or ginawa nyo during your CP11B, yung object-oriented programming, this is actually how you instantiate an object using a constructor. Okay? So, after you create a JFrame, you can now use the now familiar object dot method format. Ayan. So, parang yung ginawa rin natin nung midterms kapag ka nagtatawag tayo ng mga operation, standard open operation, halimbawa, di ba? So, inside the JFrame are the following methods that you can use. So, you have set title, set size, you can set the size, you can also set the dimension, you can also get the title, and so on. So, di ko na to totally i-discuss kasi ma-encounter naman natin to habang ginagawa natin yung program natin. Alright. Now, this is an example of a program that declares a JFrame, okay, named A-frame, set its size to 250 pixels, horizontally. Ano ibig sabihin ng horizontal? Pag ganito, pahiga. Horizontal, okay, by 100 pixels vertically, pataas. So, pag ganun siya, rectangle. And of course, we will try to set its title to display a string, to display a string. Pixels are the picture elements or tiny dots of light that make up the image on your computer monitor. So usually, makikita natin ang pixel sizes natin sa resolution mismo ng desktop natin. 'Di ba? So kapag tinignan natin yung resolution natin, the default resolution is 1920 by 1080. Now, mamaya gagawin natin to. Basically, yung ginagawa lang talaga nito are simply creating a JFrame named A-frame with a title, first frame. And we will try to set the size of this one into the following pixels. Yan. And para magpakita siya as a program or as a frame, you have to make sure to set the visibility as true. Ganun lang siya. Okay? Yan. So, ganyan ang magiging itsura niyan. So, you have here the title, you have here the minimize, maximize, and the close button. So, for now, since ganyan pa lang yung ginagawa nating code, wala pa talagang function itong tatlong to. So, kahit na pindutin yung X, okay, kahit pindutin nyo to, hindi totally magko-close yung program natin. Which is, mamaya, makikita natin kung paano natin gagamitin yan. Okay? So, in the program above, all three statements in the main method are important. So, that means every time you are trying to create a JFrame, you have to make sure to put, first of all, you have to instantiate an object, a constructor, and you have to set its size, and you have to make sure to set its visibility into true. Okay? Kasi kapag ka hindi mo sinet to, mawawala, hindi magpapakita yung code natin. Now, dito tayo. Basahin nyo na lang yan, module nyo naman yan. Pero ito importante. Now, these are the following arguments that you have to use para magamit natin itong mga to. Say for example, ito. Itong jframe.exit and close, it will now exit the program when the jframe is closed. So, kagaya nga sabi ko kanina, itong sa first program natin, wala pa kasi totally function yung X button. So, by adding this argument here, jframe.exit and close, yan, automatic, pag pinindot mo itong si X, magkakaroon, yan, magagamit na natin yung X button here and it will automatically close the window. Mamaya, mapapakita ko sa inyo, pag nag-code na tayo totally, makikita natin kung anong ibig sabihin natin dito. We also have the window constants, dispose on close. So it closes the frame, it disposes of the JFrame object, and keeps running the application. So, close mo lang yung JFrame, pero gumagana pa rin yung application. So, anong ibig sabihin nun? That can be applied kapag gumagawa na tayo ng multiple frames. So, for example, kapag yung midterm big task nyo, remember? Once you have created or clicked on login, yan, may magpapakita ulit dapat na panibagong window, pero yung previous window, wala na, nag-close na. Hindi totally, nag-close na, pero yung mismong program mo gumagana pa as a whole. So, ganun siya. Ganun yung purpose ng dispose on close. Pero kapag do nothing on close, it will now keep the JFrame and continues running. In other words, it just simply disables the close button. So, kung ayaw mong totaling paggamit sa user yung close button dito, okay lang din. Hide and close, on the other hand, closes the JFrame and continues, okay, the running of the application. And this is the default operation that you frequently want to override naman. So, actually, hindi masyado ginagamit to eh. Okay? So, tingnan natin. Pakita muna natin tong code na to. Now, by the way I'm using IntelliJ. Yan. So, kapag naka-IntelliJ kayo these are the following things that you have to take note. So, you have to create a new project. Ayan. And you have to make sure to click on Java. Tapos, huwag na kayong pumindot dito. Click on next lang, automatic. Yan. Tapos, click on next. Tapos, yung pangalan lang ng project nyo. Parang NetBeans lang din. And click on finish. Now, after you created the project, yan, magpapakita na to ngayon, tong folder na nandito. So, just like NetBeans, go to the source, yan. Tapos, right-click lang kayo dyan, new Java class. And this time, yan, lagyan nyo ng pangalan. Okay, so, in this case, Jframe1. So, yan, kagaya rin ng NetBeans, ganun-ganun lang din siya. Okay? So, pakita natin. Since we are creating a Java program na merong GUI, meron rin yan, of course. And do not forget the main method. Main string args, of course. And first of all, we create or we instantiate the frame. I'll name that as a frame equals new frame. Ayan. So, meron na tayong constructor dito. This is the title. You can also set, okay? You can also set the size. Ayan. According dito, 250 by 100. Ayan. So, kung napansin nyo sa IntelliJ, nagpapakita dito yung mga parameters. So, kapag kumakopya kayo ng code sa akin, huwag nyong kokopyahin tong width na to sa height. Okay? Yung mga grayed out na yan, do not place them. Yan. And set its visibility. Set visible true. So, kapag nirun natin yan, pag nirun natin yan, parang NetBeans lang din. Right-click, run JFrame. Yan. And let's just simply wait for that one to run. Ayun. Cannot find symbol. Jframe man. Okay. So, dito daw. So, new Jframe. Okay. And Jframe, A-frame. Okay. So, let's run that again. Ayan, nagko-compile na siya. Ayun. So, kung napansin nyo, ayan, masyado lang maliit dito. So, kung napansin nyo, ayun na siya. It automatically created your first Jframe application. Pero kung pinindot nyo kasi itong X, wala pang mangyayari. So, nag-close siya, pero kung tutuusin, nagra-run pa siya. Ayun o, nagra-run pa siya dito. I don't know kung nakikita nyo lang sa end nyo. Pero, dito kasi sa part ko, may green pa rin dito. So, meaning, the program is still running kahit na wala na yung JFrame. So, therefore, the initial argument na meron pala nang hindi natin nakikita is the dispose on close. Diba? So, kapag kanira natin yan, ayan o, process JFrame 1 is running. So, i-rerun natin yan para makita ulit natin. Ayun siya. Diba? So, kung babaguhin ko to, kung gagawin kong 1920 by 1080, the default resolution of our computers, yan, expect nyo na malaki. Diba? Expect nyo na malaki yung window na magpapakita dito. Ayan. Diba? It's just that, on your end, medyo maliit lang sa end nyo kasi iba yung resolution ng desktop ko eh. So, kung gagamitin ko yung resolution ng desktop ko, for example, ayan. Let's try to check and see kung pareho ba ng resolution sa buong desktop natin. Desktop ko, I mean. Ayun. So, kung napansin nyo, nung ginamit kong resolution is the same resolution with my desktop resolution, it actually took up all the spaces ng buong desktop ko. Diba? So, that's how you change the size of your JFrame. Okay? You can also customize the JFrame appearance, kagaya nga ng sinasabi dito. So, yan, meron tayong tinatawag na ito, itong default look and feel, decorated. So, kapag nilagay natin yan, baguhin ko nga muna ito. Gawin natin 800 by 600 para sakto lang. Yan. So, kapag nilagay natin itong code na jframe.set default look and feel decorated true, look what will happen. Medyo mabagal lang na konti. Ano? Ayan. So, kung napansin nyo, the window, ayan, yung itsura ng window nag-iba. Kumbaga parang yung old type ng window natin. Diba? Yung nangyari. Okay, so it's actually, by adding this line of code here, simply changed the look of your JFrame. Okay? So, proceed tayo dito sa hands-on exercise natin. Well, basically hands-on lang and susundan lang natin to and ginawa na natin. So, first of all, we created yan, javax.swing. Second is the main method, of course. Ano natin yan. And, yeah, kagaya ng ginawa natin dito, itong sa set size kasi, diretso natin nilagay yung value na 800 by 600. Pero, in reality, you can also declare a variable. For example, ito, you can also declare a final int variable with 800 and final int variable ng height which is 600. And imbes na yan yung ilagay mo dito, pwedeng yun yung mismo ilagay mo dito. Diba? So, height. Diba? So, yan, do not forget to set its visibility into true. So, it's actually the same, pero we just simply used final para, kumbaga, this is final. You don't need to change this. This is not dynamic. Okay? This is not dynamic value. So, yan. Yan, ganyan na itsura niyan kapag sakali. Now, yun nga, kagaya nga sabi ko kanina, since kapag niran natin to, hindi pa totally gumagana yung close button. Pero, gumagana na yung maximize and at the same time, gumagana na rin yung minimize button. That's actually the default lang naman ng JFrame. Now, in order for us to make use of the cross button or itong X button dito, we can just simply add a line of code. Yan. minimize, pwede. We can just simply add a line of code, okay? Para pag pinindot natin itong X dito, magka-close na. We can just simply use this line of code. Itong A-frame that set default close operation. Ayan. So, saan natin yung ilalagay? Ito. Mamaya yan. Pwede natin yung ilagay dito sa A-frame set default close operation Jframe dot exit and close. Ayan. So, once we run the program, it will automatically add a functionality of the X button kung saan once you click that, automatic din na yung buong program mo mag-end na rin. Okay? Yan. So, close natin. Na-close siya, and ayun, process finished. Unlike kanina, nung wala pa to, na-close lang siya, but then, the program is still running. Okay? So, may question ba tayo? Kung sakali may question lang, go ahead, type nyo lang dito. Madali pa naman tong part na to, no? So, I think wala pa. Next! Sige, gawin natin tong second GUI program. So, we can just simply create another class here. Yan. Go to source, new, and Java class. And let's name that as the same here. Second GUI program. Ayan. Medyo sinasanay ko pa sarili ko sa IntelliJ, pero parang same lang din. Yeah? So, this time, import javax.swing muna tayo. Ayan. And kung napansin nyo dito, instead of us placing the main method here, we have created this one, itong method na to. Diba? Tapos, saka meron muna ditong ito. Let me show you what's the purpose of that one. This one dito sa module natin. Kung mapansin nyo, dito sa instead of us placing the Jframe, dito natin siya ilalagay sa second GUI program na method. Okay, so here, we can just simply create Jframe, and I'll name that as, for example, ito, Jfrm equals new Jframe, a simple swing program. And so let's set its size. Set size as 275 by 100. Ayan. Now, next, we can just simply write a statement that will terminate the program when the user closes the application. So, by using this one, and pwede natin siyang ilagay dito, and create a text-based label, and add it in the container or content pane, and display the frame by writing the following statements. Now, anong ibig sabihin ulit ng container? Diba yung container kung saan natin nilagay yung window natin. Okay, so, dito tayo. Introduce ko sa inyo yung tinatawag natin na label. Now, when we say label, we are actually talking about the text inside your Jframe. So, by adding or by creating this constructor here, or instantiating a new object, which is a JLabel, which is the same, okay? So, ibig sabihin na ito kasi nilalagay natin, sinusubukan nating maglagay nitong text na to sa loob ng Jframe natin. So, by using this one, we will now be able to see your Jframe later on na meron ng text sa loob. So, kanina wala pa, diba? So, pure lang na Jframe. Okay. So, your constructor should look like this one. So, first of all, meron tayong title or yung object. We have the size. We have the default close operation. Okay? And this time, yan, maglagay tayo dito ng JLabel. JLab is equal to new JLabel. Tapos swing powers the modern Java GUI. And now, this is important. Itong jfrm.jlab or .add JLab, this is actually how you add the label inside the Jframe. Take note ha, we are trying to add this label, itong text na to, sa loob nito, sa loob ng Jframe natin. Kapag wala ito, definitely hindi nyo makikita to. Okay? And you have to make sure to set its visibility yan, into true. Pero you have noticed once again na lahat ng to ginawa natin dito sa method na to instead na dito sa main natin. Why is that? Because we will actually try to create another way for us to run this code or this entire program here, this entire code, using the main method. Pero this time, gagamit tayo ng mga dispatching thread. So, kapag medyo i-advance natin ng konti. So, kapag gusto natin maglagay ng mga threading, yan, or mga moving parts, moving something sa loob ng JFrame nyo, meron tayong tinatawag na itong swing utilities dot invoke later. For now, wala pang use siya totally, pero makikita natin to pag nagte-threads na tayo. So, runnable, tapos sa loob niyan, may ganyan, and public void run. Tapos, this time, we call the constructor method second GUI program. Yan, kakaiba, ano? Nilagay ko lang talaga to para maging ready tayo later on sa alam nyo yun, sa paglalagay ng threads or animation sa loob ng Jframe natin. Kasi possible po yun. You can even create your own drawing using Java sa loob ng Jframe. So, kung i-run natin to, yan, nag-run na ba? Ayun. And so, medyo maliit lang, ano? Yun. Kung nakikita nyo, the label that we added or that we actually added was placed inside your JFrame. So, take note ha, ang mga steps lang na kailangan nyo matandaan is first, you have to instantiate the object. Ano nga ba yung object na gusto nating instantiate na pinakauna? JFrame muna. Okay? So, we can instantiate them by creating a constructor JFrame, and inside that is the title. Next is setting its size, and setting its default close operation, and at the same time, setting its visibility. Okay? So, ganun din kapag maglalagay tayo ng mga text file sa loob or text sa loob ng frame natin. We can just simply, yan, instantiate a new object, JLab or JLabel. And inside the JLabel is where the text or the string value is placed. And after that, we will now place or add the JLabel inside our JFrame. Kung napansin nyo, wala pa talaga tayong totally dito na, ano yun? Parang formatting. Next natin pag-aaralan yun. Kumbaga, we can place these text here dito sa right side, pwede rin sa left side, and so on. Pero, ang tanong natin, Sir, can we add another label? Okay? So, halimbawa, mag-add tayo ng panibago dito na JLab2. Pero this time, second message. Try natin kung pwede. So, let's add the new JLab. And let's try to check and see kung pwede. And let's see kung anong mangyayari. Ayun. So, kung napansin nyo, hindi po nagpakita sa ngayon, okay, yung unang message natin, even though we add them, okay, ng pareho. The reason for that one is because the JFrame, for now, without using any particular panels or wala pa, yun na yung sagot. Wala pang panels, wala pang formatting na tinatawag natin. Ang pinaka mailalagay lang natin sa loob ng JFrame is the last or the latest JLabel na nilagay natin. So, in this case, yung second message ang nagpakita, imbis na yung una. So, kung ano yung latest pala, yun yung mailalagay dito. Sa ngayon. Okay? Sa ngayon. Yan. So, I hope na gagets natin yung gusto nating mangyari dito sa pag-add ng JLabel. So this is the JLabel. Yung kanina, introduction lang yan ng Jframe. Ito. Okay. Next, another example here is what we call the nested panel. Now, pag sinabi nating nested panel, okay, from the word itself, nested, meaning a panel inside a panel. And we will try to check and see kung ano magiging itsura. Okay? Nung program natin. Pero, para magkaroon kayo ng idea, imagine a window, ayan, imagine a window, pero, meron ka ditong ilalagay na text, meron ka ilalagay na text sa gitna, meron ka ilalagay dito sa right side. So therefore, yung ginawa natin dito kanina na dalawang JLabel lang pero isa yung nagpakita. It's because wala pang tinatawag na panels. Now, let's create another program. Yan. Ipakita ko sa inyo kung paano gumawa ng panels. And let's name that as nested panels. Okay. So, this time, yan. Kung napansin nyo dun sa module natin, gumamit na tayo ng tinatawag na out. Anong ibig sabihin ng out? Ulit, Abstract Windows Toolkit. Now, the purpose of Abstract Windows Toolkit is actually for us to import some colors. Kasi kapag gusto nyo maglagay ng mga colors na yan, or if you want to access the color class, nandyan yan sa java.out. Wala siya sa javax.swing. That's why we still have to import javax.swing. Okay. So, next, meron tayong main method. Okay. Yung kanina, pinakita ko lang to na separate sample. So, ito, pwede nyo tanggalin ito. Tapos lahat ng ito, lagay nyo lang dito diretso sa main method. That's possible. I only showed this example here for you to know na pwede pong maglagay ng threads or hyper-threading dito sa Java program natin. Ibig sabihin, yung mga animations, yung mga gumagalaw-galaw na, alam nyo yun, pagkagagawa na tayo ng mga game natin sa Java. Yan. So here, public class nested panels. Let's create here the main method na meron tayo. Public static void main string args. Okay. Now, first of all, what we are trying to do here is to create a program that will look something like this. Siguro, pakita natin sa paint na lang. So, parang ang gusto nating mangyari dito is we have here the entire frame. Yan. Tapos, dito sa may part na to, merong siguro, yan, parang merong dyan, tapos meron din dito ulit, and meron dito ulit. So, parang ganyan ang gusto natin mangyari. So, nested panels. First of all, yan, you have to create the first subpanel first. Tingnan nyo ha, wala pa tayong Jframe. Mamaya yung Jframe natin. So, gusto nating mangyari dito is for us to create your panels. Okay. So, lagay natin. First subpanel. Yan. And let's introduce in what we call Jpanel. Yan. So, parang Jframe lang din. Nag-create kayo ng constructor, instantiating an object. Yan. Pero this time, sige, wag na lang muna natin lagyan ng title. So, subpanel 1. And we can simply set the size of that panel, yan, by using this method, new dimension, tapos yung width and height niya. So, unlike kanina, yung Jframe, take note ha, itong Jframe na to, itong set size method na to, this is only for Jframe. You are setting the entire size of the Jframe. Itong for nested panels, you are trying to set the preferred size of your panel inside the Jframe. Take note, inside the Jframe. Okay? So, we can also set the background color, yan, into green. Yan. So, nagamit yung itong color that green, it's because of the import java.out na meron tayo. Okay? Tapos, Ayan, lagay tayo ng J-label. Ibig sabihin, inside that particular panel, maglalagay pa tayo ng text sa loob nun. So, label 1 is equal to new J-label. And let's name that, or let's put a text file 1, or a text 1. And now, inside the subpanel 1 is where we will add label 1. Okay, so ang nangyayari dito is for us, first of all, naglagay tayo ng first subpanel, okay, with a dimension. Tapos inside that panel, we added the text 1. And take note, yung panel na yan, merong color green. Hindi pa gagana yan kasi wala pa tayong pinaglagyan ng buong panel natin sa loob ng Jframe, which we will do later on. Okay? So next, we will create the second subpanel. Second subpanel. So kagaya ng ginawa natin kanina, and equals new Jpanel. Tapos subpanel 2, set preferred size as its new dimension. Ang ganda ng IntelliSense ng IntelliJ. Automatic masyado. Mas mabilis akong mag-code pag IntelliJ pala. Ayan. Tapos yung background color. Pero this time, red. Okay? And let's add a J-label, label 1, label 2, J-label 2. Okay, and let's add that J-label 2 into the subpanel 2. Ayan. So, nakikita nyo naman, no? Ng maayos, no? Okay, so we are now complete with the first two panels. Siyempre, yung dalawa lang muna gagawin natin. Yung pangatlo, baka activity na yun, di ba? Yan. So, we have the first and the second subpanel that we will try to place in a single panel. And how is that even possible? After creating the two panels, let's create what we call the primary panel where the two subpanels will be placed. So, primary panel. So, dito natin ilalagay ngayon yung dalawa. Paano yan? Yan. So, let's name that as primary equals new Jpanel. And let's set its background to color that blue. Tapos, lagay natin ng, lagay natin ngayon si subpanel 1 dot add subpanel 2. Okay. Now, this time, kung napansin nyo, you have here a frame. Okay? Meron ka ditong frame.getContentPane.addPrimary. Anong ibig sabihin na itong part ng code na to? This is actually where we will now try to place everything in our Jframe. Pero, hindi yata ako naglagay dito ng Jframe, no? So, pwede tayo maglagay dyan ng Jframe later on. Okay, so gawin natin. Frame. Wala pa eh. Gawa tayo ng Jframe muna dito. Jframe, frame, equals new Jframe. And panels. Okay, tapos dito, lagyan natin. Frame dot get content pane. Yan. Dot add primary. Explain ko kung anong ginagawa niyan mamaya. Ayan. So frame dot pack, we will try to pack them as one, and let's set its visibility into true. Okay. So tingnan natin kung ano nangyari. Let's try to run that and let's try to see what our program looks like. Kaya pag naantay natin yan, buksan ko muna to. Oops, may error daw tayo. Color the thread. Okay. Ayan. Small letter pala. Gusto niya. Ayun. Nakikita nyo ba? Nakikita ba on your end? Okay. Ewan ko kung nakikita nyo. Pero hopefully nakikita. Ayan, nakikita daw. Thank you, Mandy. Ayan. So, explain natin kung ano nangyari. I-recap natin, okay? One by one. Siguro napansin nyo, last kong create si Jframe. 'Di ba? Well, okay lang naman kung unahin nyo siya. Pwede nyo nga rin ilagay dito. Ayan, para, alam mo yun, hindi kayo mapraning. Pero kung napansin nyo, wala tayong sinet na size for the Jframe. Okay. That's because, that's the purpose of panels. The first and second sub-panels here, we already created their dimensions. 'Di ba? So, automatic si Java program, alam na niya na kung ano yung dimension ng dalawang panel natin. The reason why we have used this primary panel, yung color blue, is because para palatandaan lang natin na nilagay natin yung dalawang panel na yon sa loob ng iisang panel. And that particular panel, which holds the two sub-panels, are now placed inside the JFrame using the .get content pane and the .pack. Ang purpose na itong code na to kasi is for you or for your code to automatically set the size of the entire content pane basing on the first and the second sub-panels na meron tayo. So, napaka-importante na ilagay nyo itong get content pane. Saka nyo maglagay ng neto, itong add primary. Sige nga, subukan natin tanggalin ito ha. So, what will happen if we try to remove the .get content pane and the frame.pack? Ganun pa rin ba siya? Let's see. Medyo, ayun. Ewan ko lang ha. Pero kung nakikita nyo dito, ayan, on the upper left corner ng screen ko, ayan. Kung napansin nyo kanina, nakaganon siya. Nakaganyan siya totally. So, that's the purpose. 'Di ba? So, kung wala yung frame.pack na yan and yung get content pane, hindi nyo makikita yung output. But, yes, na-add naman literally yung primary panels mo that holds the two panels or sub-panels inside the JFrame. However, nung niran nyo yan, hindi nyo makita. 'Di ba? Yun yung purpose ng yan. Para kapag kaniran nyo siya automatic, makikita nyo siya agad. So, if you will try to add the third sub-panel, how is that even possible? So, yun yung magiging practice ninyo. So, kung maglalagay kayo dito ng panibago na panel, and paano nyo gagawin? Diba? Try nating baguhin naman yung size, magkaibang size, 800 by 600 for example. Tapos ito is around 1920 by 1080. Let's see what will happen. So the green will now become 800 by 600. The red will now become 1920 by 1080. And let's see kung ano magiging output niya. Ayun. Pansin nyo? Diba? So, kahit pala magkaiba ang size ng sub-panels, tinilagay nyo sa primary panel na to, still, makikita nyo pa rin sa code ninyo, or makikita nyo pa rin sa output kung ano ang itsura niya. So, therefore, this is an 800 by 600. This is the 1920 by 1080p resolution. So, kung maglalagay kayo dito ng isa pa na sub-panels, possible yan. Now, maybe you will try to ask me, Sir, paano kung gusto kong itaas yung color green dito? Iba ulit na usapan yon, okay? May mga dimension and particular sizes na kasi tayong susundan doon, yung mga placements na ng nito mga to. Now, maybe you're wondering what's the purpose of panels? The purpose of panels is actually, number one, for you to be able to properly format and design your program. So, imagine nyo kasi yan later on kapag gagawa na kayo ng totoong login. Diba? Nung totoong, yun, yung parang log in ninyo na ginawa for midterms. Definitely, hindi lang kayo gagamit ng isang Jframe, isang panel, andun na lahat. You will try to design everything, to format them everything as one. Pakita rin natin itong example natin dito. The big blue button. Diba? So imagine this is an entire window frame and a J-frame with a title. Tapos, ang purpose ng panels, ito. So this is sub-panel 1, sub-panel 2, sub-panel 3, and the entire primary panel is actually placed as one. Yun yung kagandahan ng panel eh. Kasi kapag ka naayos nyo yan, kapag ka na-format yun ng maayos, magkakaroon din ng proper design yung pinaka-program mo. Nagets nyo ba? I hope na iintindihan naman natin kasi medyo madali lang naman tong topic natin for now. Diba? Ayan. So, ayan, wala na pala. Tapos na pala agad yung module natin ngayong araw na to. So, ayan. If you have some questions, make sure to question me lang dito or sa messenger. Bahala kayo. Pero, yes, you are now allowed to answer the written work number 1. Ito po. And, ito. Punta tayo dito sa programming exercises. Okay. Write an application that displays a JFrame containing the opening sentence or two from your favorite book. Change the background color to your favorite one and submit the file as ito. But, pag magsasubmit kayo dito, you have to make sure to follow the instructions carefully. Okay? Number 1, copy, paste your complete code in the submission box. Number 2, upload the Java file. Number 3, you have to upload the screenshot of your output. The screenshot ha? Yung screenshot. So yung tatlong yan ang ina-expect ko makikita sa sa pinaka isasubmit nyo later on. Okay ba? Okay, may question ba tayo? So, for today, tatlo po ang topic na napag-aralan natin. Number 1 is the use of Jframe. Number 2 is for the JLabel. And number 3 is for the Jpanel. Yan, Jpanels. Okay, so sige, you are now allowed to answer these activities. So, kindly use the remaining time for you to, of course, gawin nyo na agad para wala na kayong problemahin. Regarding with your grade, sagutin ko po mamaya yun pagka tapos yung mga ginagawa ko. Okay? Sige, kung wala na po tayong tanong, you can now go ahead and leave the big blue button conference and see you guys next week for our new topic. Alright? So, goodbye.